Hi friends, welcome back to The Rogue Educator. My name is Katie and today I am coming at you with my July wrap-up. But first, we need to talk about this little gem that I found in my bathroom. You guys, this is an 18-year-old bottle of Victoria's Secret Love Spell that evidently has followed me from my childhood bathroom to an apartment, into marriage, through 5 different houses, including a cross-country trip from Oregon to Michigan, and then back again to Oregon, where I just found it in our brand new bathroom. So apparently this little bottle and I are just meant to be friends forever. And to be honest, when I look at it and when I smell it, it just takes me back to being 16. And yep, let's be real. Sometimes when life is crazy, you just want to be 16 again. So here we are. I don't think I'm gonna ever be able to throw this away, but I guess it will just hang out in my bathroom a little bit longer. All right, well, let's move on to the present and real life right now, and I'm going to talk about the books that I finished in the month of July. Okay, so the first book that I completed was this one. It's called The Lost Boy, and it's by Greg Ruth. It's a graphic novel, and this is one of the books that has sort of been lingering on my bookshelf for ages and ages. But seeing as our libraries are still not open, I am just working on the read your own damn books. So that's what I'm doing. I'm reading my books. And honestly, I've been in a reading slump since about the end of April. In April, I read 14 or 15 books and apparently just burned myself out. And also we had to pack up our house and load it into pods and send everything back here from Michigan to Oregon. So that kind of took up a lot of time as well. Anyway, so beginning of July, I picked up The Lost Boy. And I would give this probably a 3.5 stars. Although objectively it's probably better than that, but my reading of it was pretty choppy, and it's been a long time since I've read a graphic novel, so it was a little bit hard for me to follow at the beginning, but I did get more into it, and it's black and white for the most part, and the development of the atmosphere was what really stuck with me. It's a little dark, it's a little foreboding, it's very mysterious, and it bounces back and forth between 2 time periods, at least at the beginning. And then at the end, it bounces into sort of this new world within the forest. So very fantastical, a little bit of time travel, and we follow the modern day kids as they discover some tapes from a very old tape recorder that take us back into the time of the boy who recorded the tapes. And he's the boy that has gone missing. And so it is up to the modern day kids to work together with these strange woodland creatures to find the lost boy. And it has a great twist at the end, and overall it's a good story. I just got a little lost in it personally because of being newish or renewed to graphic novels and just having a choppy reading experience. I'd read for a few days and then take a week off and then end up picking it up and reading some more. So anyway, The Lost Boy, I do recommend it, especially if you like fantasy and time travel. All right, the next book I read was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, because I am reading through these books again this year for the first time since they were originally released. And I remember this one in particular being one of my favorites. I just love the story of Moaning Myrtle and just how all of that kind of comes together so nicely at the end of the story. Again, I love Harry and Ron and Hermione and the world of Hogwarts. This book, I realize, is not one of the objectively best Harry Potter books in the series, but I'll give it a 4 or 4.5 out of 5 because I love a good ghost story, and I love the creature in the pipes and Harry learning more about his personal abilities and kind of that interesting mix of dark and light. He's got this dark ability that everyone in the wizarding world associates with Slytherin and the Dark Lord, but Harry doesn't want to be that. So it's kind of him coming to terms with this ability and what people think of him and what he's capable of and what he wants to accomplish. And I love how Ginny kind of ends up with a bit of a central role in this story as well. So, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Okay, next up I read Pride by Ibi Zoboi. And this book, I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5. Let's be real, I'm not a huge Jane Austen fan. I'm not a huge Pride and Prejudice fan. I know, it's like heresy in the book world, but I'm just not, it's not my thing. However, I really, really enjoyed the setting of this story. I enjoyed so much that it was a Black retelling, or as the author calls it, a remix of Pride and Prejudice that takes place in Brooklyn, New York. And I love that it is so place-centric. There's a lot of emphasis on neighborhood pride and family pride, and just the main character, her name is Zuri, and we follow her and her, she has there are 5 sisters in her family. And some of the names have been changed and updated. But she adores her sisters. They have great relationships. She adores her neighborhood, and she wants to go off to Howard University, which is a historically Black college in Washington, D.C., and which I've actually been there before. I lived for Washington, D.C. for a little while in college and spent some time at Howard. So that was kind of cool to be able to visualize that. And honestly, Brooklyn is on my bucket list. When all of this travel ban stuff and it becomes safer to travel again, I want to go to New York, specifically to Brooklyn, because stories that take place in Brooklyn just really fascinate me. So anyway, our main character, Zuri, ends up meeting the boys across the street, and it is very much a Pride and Prejudice retelling. But what I specifically love is the conversation in the book that surrounds the idea of gentrification and rich and poor and black and white and all other colors, and how this neighborhood that Zuri lives in just brings all of that together, and she just relishes that, and she has deep frustration for people coming into her hood that just want to jack up the prices and rebuild things and all of that. So this is a very relevant book on a lot of levels right now and in general. I also live in a city that has struggled with the balance between gentrification and, taking care of people that have lived here forever and ever, and what they have contributed to this city and taking that away from them and all of that. So I just really resonated with that part of the story. So definitely a great read. Highly recommend Pride. This month I also read The Accidental Creative by Todd Henry, and I don't have the physical copy of that book. I read it on my Kindle, so I'll just post a picture somewhere. This is my Kindle. Isn't it cute? My son calls it my pooter book. He's 3. Anyway, this is a nonfiction book that talks about how to manage your focus and time and energy and other resources as a creative. And the author defines creative as anyone who has to solve problems. So even people in the business world can be considered creatives. That's why he calls it the accidental creative. So I think the biggest thing I got out of this book, which by the way, I'd probably give this a 4 out of 5. And again, that's objective or subjective, because some of it didn't apply to me. I'm not in the business world. I'm more like a regular creative, as we would probably define it. But probably the biggest thing I took out of this book was the idea of managing my stimuli. So what am I putting in my brain? Am I stuffing my brain so full that I don't have room to be creative, or am I stuffing my brain so full of like just scrolling and shallow information like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, which are fine in small doses, but is all of that interfering with my ability to be creative, or am I filling my brain with stimuli that enhances my ability to be creative? And I just thought this whole concept of sort of curating my own stimuli was super interesting and super doable and very practical. So I have been practicing that the last few weeks. I took some things off my phone that were just sort of mind numbing and am spending more time with my books or reading longer articles and things like that. So The Accidental Creative by Todd Henry, recommend it very much. And for me, I just kind of like picked and chose what was relevant to me in my life right now, but it's a very easy book to do that. So yeah, highly recommend. And finally this month I read The Smartest Kids in the World. Well, actually I listened to it. It's by Amanda Ripley, and it follows the author is a journalist, and she follows 3 American exchange students who, while they are in high school, go to South Korea, Finland, and Poland. Each of those countries scores very high on PISA, which is an international sort of standardized test, but it's sort of a different kind, and it's a little less multiple choice and a little bit more, can you solve the problem in an interesting way? And each of those countries scored very high on the PISA, but for different reasons. And so this author, or this journalist, wanted to see how each of these countries approached education that allowed them to score so high on this international test. And each of the countries did it very differently. And I'm going to talk more about this book in a dedicated review, since it is an education book, and education, specifically education policy and curriculum and things like that, are like what I love. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I'd give it a 5. It was very easy to listen to. It was very narrative style. I mean, obviously it was nonfiction, but told in a very cohesive story. And just following these American high school students as they sort of compared their American high school experience to their abroad high school experiences was super interesting. So again, I'll talk more about that next week, probably in a dedicated review. But highly recommend if you are interested in school and education, or if you've got kids that are in school and being educated, it's a great read or listen. So that's all I have for you today. I will be back with some great new videos in the coming weeks. I know I had to take a long hiatus because of our move and just being really burned out, and I'm sure most of you can totally understand. So I hope you are well, staying safe and healthy, and I would love for you to subscribe and join the Rogue Educator community, and I will see you in my next video.